so this first one is titled, It Might Have Been the Mythical Thunderbird. I'm not a camper or a ranger, but I'm an archaeologist. Okay, so we're off to a good start here. It's not even a park ranger. A few years back, we were doing a massive survey in the middle of nowhere in the interior of British Columbia. All the crew had gone home, and it was just my boss and myself left for a few days to follow up and confirm some coordinates and finish some mapping. We head out from our motel an hour or so into the bush in the middle of nowhere along deactivated logging roads. The closest town is miles and miles away. We hike out to this one area we had found a few weeks previously. For some reason the whole area just felt off. So, we got down to business, and about 15 minutes after being hunched over mapping, there is this weird deafening whomp sound. Like I could feel pressure in my ears. I immediately looked at my boss about 20 feet away, and he is white as a ghost staring back at me. While standing there, it happens again. Whomp. Ear pressure and chest pressure, like I was just squeezed. Chills erupt all over my body, and every hair is standing on end. My boss just looked at me and says, "Let's go." We grab all of our stuff and speed hike back to the truck. We never discussed it. No clue what it was, but I have never been so freaked out in my life. 10 years later, I still get chills. There's been a lot of theories and sounds, but nothing like it. The best I can describe, when a large bird or an eagle takes flight, the initial whoosh or whomp sounds of the wings pumping in the air, kind of like that. But you would feel it, and it was loud. Oh wow, interesting, like a large bird, very interesting. So this next one is titled, Camped in the Vicinity of a Wendigo or Bigfoot. I love a good Bigfoot story. About 7 years ago, I was on a backpacking trip with 3 friends, one ranger, the rest of us bio/botany nerds, and all 4 of us saw something we still cannot explain. Day 1 went off without a hitch. It was a bit long and a lot of elevation gain, but nonetheless we set up camp and heated beans and rice under what was one of the clearest summer skies I can remember. This was up in Washington, and the night sky from the mountains is just unreal. Day 2 was different. All 4 of us awoke shortly before dusk to a shrill scream. Not super common. Most of us pretty seasoned hikers, campers and backpackers. The sound of something getting killed is pretty universal. None of us could quite make it out. If I remember correctly, we assumed it was a coyote. That familiar yelp and wail. Anyways, it was pretty close, which is probably why it woke us all up. So we started scoping out a small radius about the campsite. We found what looked like somebody had put a bomb inside some kind of animal. No evidence of actual explosion. I'm just trying to give you the same picture I have in my head. A totally indecipherable heap of flesh and fur, probably about the size of a German shepherd. Similar fur coloration too. We discussed how odd it was for a bit, then decided more or less, what are you gonna do? And moved on. Best explanation was something tore into it and bailed. Maybe by the sound of us waking up. Day 3. Did you see that? We're winding down from a fairly short day of hiking. Tired from the past 2 days, I remember us joking about being old farts and not being able to hustle like we could a few years prior. The sun was just making its way down over the tree line while we busted out the whiskey and started boiling a pot of water for more beans and rice. I'll never forget this moment as long as I live. One of the crew was just launching into a story about his ex, and it went something like this. Yeah, so she was just about the worst possible kind of. He cuts off by a loud pop, which we all unanimously recognized and described as a tree's last leg snapping before it falls. We're all standing now, scanning the tree line. We're in a small clearing, aside from the single tree we're next to. A few minutes go by without a sound. Nothing. Then we start hearing the forest's life make noise again. Mostly birds doing their thing. We all settle back in, presuming the tree wound up leaning up against against another tree instead of hitting the forest floor. It sounds pretty close, but there aren't too many trees we need to be concerned about, i.e. couldn't reach us if it fell in the middle of the night kind of thing. Then another wail, like the one we heard on the first night, except more distant, though I never sense it. One of the crew says it sounded like it came from a cave, like it echoed, so we go looking for a cave in that general direction. We search for about 45 minutes before one of us suggests we should head back, as we're going a bit out of sunlight soon. More importantly, it's starting to get dark, and we're a little way too from safety of our tents. We never find anything like a cave, or something that would cause that kind of reverb, or any kind of body. Heading back towards the clearing / our campsite from the woods, something catches a friend's eye. Did you see that? He's pointing across the clearing about 9 o'clock. We're taking a direct path from our campsite, and it's dead ahead at 12. We're all looking in that direction, scanning the tree line. Where? What? Dude, I am telling you, there was a person right there, just beyond the camp. He's visibly shaken by it, and it's pretty obvious he isn't fooling around, or thought he could have been mistaken. We're nowhere near a road or town, and even the nearest trail is miles away. A handful of times I've run into other backpackers in a similar way, people checking out your camp and heading that direction. So the rest of us had a pretty open, let's go check it out mentality. But the friend who saw the figure suggests we all take a knee and wait while we hide in the tree line's cover. So there we are, kneeling in the brush, staring at our own campsite from the other side of the clearing, when we all unanimously see a figure start to move against the brush from 9 to 8 to 7 counterclockwise. Since we're at effectively 6 o'clock, this becomes increasingly unsettling. I remember noting our ranger buddy ready his rifle and another friend putting a hand on his knife. We're all feeling the same uneasiness now. I say we saw a figure, but really we could just hear and occasionally see the brush moving in that area. Our ranger buddy declares it just has to be a bear. The original spotter whispering his argument about it standing like a person. Either way, we decide getting into the clearing and making our presence known was the best choice. We either need to scare off the bear or confront this person. So we all stand up and jog into the clearing shouting, "Hey bear!" This is more or less the standard procedure, in case you're wondering. Nothing happens, nothing at all. Now, we're all standing in the middle of the clearing, somewhere about halfway between our 6 o'clock position and our camps, just waiting for something to happen. We're about 20 minutes away from total darkness when there's another wail from 4 o'clock, but our focus is still towards 7. I whirl around, realizing one of us was already looking that way, and his face is totally pale. Then I see it too. We all do. There's a silhouette of a tall man leaning over something else, facing away from us, and he clearly rests on one knee before turning to look our way. Our ranger buddy had his rifle in the air. "Hey, who the heck is off?" He's about to lay into him for hunting when the figure comes to a full stand. Hard to gauge, probably about 6 foot, and then takes off away from us. And I don't mean like a man scrambling to run away, or a bear bounding off into the brush. This is more like Usain Bolt if he were born and raised in the mountains. Never in my life have I ever seen anything like it. And I'm almost embarrassed to admit it. My first reaction was ghost. Yeah, probably me too. Or Bigfoot. Or like a undead killer. After a pretty long wait and arguing over what it was or what to do, we swing back to camp to grab a few flashlights and our lamp. We make our way over to where the figure was leaning, and it's another mound of flesh. Without getting too detailed, this time some unmistakable fox paws are intermixed. Again, it looks like it was exploded, open, and the meat eaten on the spot, no harvested like a hunter. You probably wouldn't be surprised to hear we didn't sleep that night. We made jokes about encountering Sasquatch out there. I've never been a spiritual man, and I'm still not, but it's to shake the inhuman yet human supernatural nature of the way it looked and moved. None of us could make out any kind of clothing that would break up its silhouette. Not to mention, I've never personally seen something kill quite like that. The closest thing I've seen is a deer carcass posed bare, in a time of year that would probably have made it hungry and aggressive, closer to hibernation, which wouldn't have been during the summer of our hike. What gets me is we heard the same shrill wails 3 times, and the distance between our day 2 site and our day 3 site was close to 10 miles, meaning we were on the same general game trail as it was, or it was following us. Ooh, very creepy. It was probably following you, I'm not gonna lie. What do you guys think that was? I'm gonna go with Bigfoot. Or just a random dude, I don't know. This next one is titled An Invasion of Skinwalkers. This was when I used to go to my cousin's house in Round Rock, Arizona, on the Navajo reservation. If you were to look that up on Google Maps, you would notice it is a barren mesa. It's not uncommon for people to report sighting of skinwalkers, and I remember having a few experiences with them. To get to my cousin's house, you would have to drive 20 minutes just to reach her place from the main road. A trailer was near a canyon. Our house is very isolated, and the nearest neighbour is about 10 minutes by vehicle and 30 by walking. We don't have street lights, and if you wanted to use the bathroom, you have to go to the outhouse, which is a 5-minute walk from the house. Oh, Jesus. Not good. If you wanted to go at night, you would need a flashlight, since it's a no-joke pitch black situation. One night, my cousin, her mother, and I spent the night in their trailer that they let us use. We came to the reservation to return documents to a chapter house, so my cousin and I went for fun. Late at night, as we're watching TV, the windows in the far back room are scratched on. We freaked out because the room door was open and the blinds were up. We ran to that room and tried to close the blinds without looking out because we figured it would have been a skinwalker. Her mum was sleeping, so we made sure we locked the doors and tried to ignore the noise all night. We waited until first light of dawn to go to the bathroom. Even then we went as a pair and turned on the radio from our phones to keep us sane. The next morning, I remember her mum was making coffee, and we were all talking in the living room when one of the plates randomly fell down. Then my cousin noticed that the car doors were open, even though I remember we locked the doors. Nothing seemed to have freaked us out yet until her mum found out our tyres were slashed. Also, the windows looked like there had been some kind of claw prints on them. When we told her mum what we experienced that night, she said it was likely a skinwalker, but she said she made sure to put ash on the doorways before the night fell. That is what saved us from it coming into the house. She essentially protected the house by a quick protection prayer. It was a freaky experience, and skinwalkers are not to be taken lightly. I have had my fair share of experiences, and hear the stories from my mum and dad and their experiences. Please don't go on the reservations at night alone, or leave your belongings out. They'll steal them and use them to put a curse on you. They can blow a corpse powder on you, which will make you fatally ill and potentially die if you don't go to a medicine man. Whoa, that was intense. I do believe in skinwalkers, do you guys? And that was a very interesting one. As if the mum practically saved them all by using the powder or whatever. Very interesting. This next one is titled They Ran Through a Man. I worked at a summer camp where the cabins were arranged in a circle with the centre building that was used for showers and bathrooms. One night, one of my campers, about 12 years old, asked to go to the bathroom just as we had all gotten into bed. I tell him to take his bunkmate and go quickly. The bathroom building is about 100 feet away. The kids are talking around like kids do, and they take off for the bathroom running. All of a sudden, I hear screams that still haunt me. Hysterical, choking for air, horror movie screams. I jump up and run out, and I see the 2 boys sitting on the ground right outside the bathrooms, and they are kind of holding each other. After a few minutes, they calm down enough to say that they ran through a goes home from summer camp, man. It still freaks me out. Oh my gosh, if I was like, working at a summer camp and some kids experience that, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like, what on earth? I would also believe them, probably. Okay, so this last one I am gonna read is titled Visit from a Jungle Spirit. I was working at a survey station deep in the Malaysian jungle in Borneo. Borneo. Should we go with Borneo? I was sleeping in one of the dorms with some of the rangers we were working with. 5 people total in the dorm. That night, I was having a nightmare and woke up about 2 a.m. to the sound of footsteps outside. Whatever it was fairly big and sounded bipedal. It stopped right outside the window, so I'm staring back at the window, trying hard to see. Pitch black in the whole station since it's run on solar power and the batteries give out around midnight. Suddenly, one of the rangers shifted in her bed, making a noise, and I could hear whatever it was running away quite fast. Being a rather skeptical person in general, I woke up and asked the rangers the next day about it. They adamantly believed that it was a jungle spirit coming to check us out. The station stood on stilts, so the window sits about 10 feet off the ground. I asked about the possibility of it being a wild animal, but they said that the only thing big enough to make that loud of a footprint would have to be a sun bear, which is a small bear, or a cloud leopard, usually very silent. They said it's generally unheard of for those animals to make it that close to the survey station since they are usually people milling about. The rangers have heard the footsteps before, and they firmly believe that a jungle spirit was roaming about the site. Very creepy. What is a jungle spirit? I feel like I need more details on that. So those were some strange experiences in the woods by park rangers. Although 99% of those people were not park rangers, apart from that last one from what I remember, so we'll just go with strange experiences in the woods by random people. But yeah, I hope you guys have a creepy rest of your day or evening wherever you are, and I shall see you next time for another episode of Spooky